Horse racing is called the sport of kings, a competition of strength, strategy, and speed.
But locally, it's also seen a large number of injuries and deaths, something the News 4 I-Team has been digging into for 3 years now.
Tonight, Scott McFarland and the I-Team show us why some are questioning whether the horses are being pushed too hard.
For Leslie Condon, it's moments like this,
right, beautiful,
that make it so special to be a horse owner and trainer. She delivered this foal named Good Lovin' when you're watching the young horse's first trot.
It's like your little kid running across his first baseball diamond.
But there are also moments of heartbreak. Good Lovin' was sired by a thoroughbred named Lovin' It.
Yeah, we had a special connection with that horse, and we thought he was special.
Lovin' It quickly made a name for himself on the track in Charlestown, West Virginia.
His attitude. You know, he had the right mind for the job.
The attitude. You actually could see an attitude.
You could actually see the attitude from the time he was a colt.
Last March, you could also see Lovin' It's strength halfway through the race at Charlestown before he was sandwiched between other horses.
They took his legs out from under him.
He crashed to the turf, dislocated his ankle, and Condon made the painful decision to euthanize him.
My only desire is to end his suffering.
That's the first instinct.
That is my first instinct, to end his suffering as quickly as I possibly can.
It might seem like a freak, rare accident, but a News 4 I-Team review of state thoroughbred racing health records reveals at least 160 horses have been euthanized in West Virginia after races at Charlestown since the beginning of 2014.
There's no acceptable reason for a horse to die, though we know it's going to happen in horse racing.
Keith Dane is an investigator with the Humane Society of the United States.
And we'd like to know what's going on at this track and some of the other tracks that have high mortality rates.
Track officials told us the rate of horses dying locally is actually about the same as the rate nationwide. But something is different at this track, much different. Our investigation found of the nearly 35 major thoroughbred horse racing tracks nationwide, only one has as many races each year as they have here at Charlestown. West Virginia state law requires at least 220 race days each year, winter included. The Humane Society questions whether there are enough healthy, qualified horses to run all those races.
It costs a lot to maintain these tracks, and they want to fill as many race days as they can.
State records show the West Virginia Racing Commission has formally asked legislators to reduce the 220-plus races Charlestown is required to run each year, but new law to do so has stalled at the gates. And horse owners have lobbied for the longer schedule, arguing fewer races could cripple them financially. The Humane Society says the longer race calendar can put horses at risk, and that so too does the use of pain-masking medications by trainers, allowing horses to run even when injured.
We know that the use of race day drugs is ubiquitous throughout the racing industry, and that includes in West Virginia.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
West Virginia racing officials do require drug tests to reduce the use of certain pain meds. Records obtained by the I-Team show only 30 horses failed drug tests at Charlestown last year out of the thousands that raced. But we found under West Virginia law, only the winners must be drug tested immediately after each race. In neighboring Maryland, each of the top two must be. And the man who manages Charlestown races says whether trainers drug horses is out of the track's control.
We don't medicate or train the horses. We don't do pre-race exams. We don't do any of that. We make sure that the racing service is as safe as possible, and there are other folks who are not under our direction who handle the other stuff.
Leslie Condon says her horse died because of a freak accident, error by the jockeys that night, not because he was raced too much.
It's human error. It was human error.
And says race horses are some of the best cared for animals.
He lives in basically a padded room. He has a personal groom. He gets a bath every day and gets groomed every day.
And even she wants that longer, 200-plus day racing schedule.
There's inherent risk in everything we do.
But the I-Team uncovered another possible problem, risking the safety of all these horses. It's a turf battle happening behind the scenes, a battle between the people who stage horse races and the government officials who oversee them. Chris and Doreen, that part of our story tomorrow night, right here.
All right. A lot goes into this, Scott.
It does.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott McFarland. A 3-year-long investigation by the News 4 I-Team is raising questions about the number of thoroughbred horses dying after competing at a local track.
Yeah, horse racing means big bucks in our region, but the I-Team discovered a different type of jockeying happening off the track. As Scott McFarland reveals, a beautiful sport is suffering from some ugly disputes behind the scenes.
They head up the top of the stretch, and there it's still Rock on Thelma with the lead.
Race 4 on a December night in Charlestown, West Virginia began as so many races do.
And they're off-hand racing in the fourth.
A jump out of the gate and a quick push for inside position. But what happened next
Look out, loose horse on the track.
was a disaster. A horse stumbled, tossed off the jockey, then mid-race began galloping full speed in the wrong direction, colliding into Frisky Dixie near the stretch turn. Frisky Dixie fractured a shoulder and had to be euthanized. The jockeys survived.
Stewards have asked the horses to pull up.
Eric Zimney manages horse race operations at Charlestown.
We felt as if the precipitating factor there was the race not being watched live by some folks who are not under our employ.
Zimney is referring to the stewards, the state racing officials who monitor every race at Charlestown. Because of this tragedy, new safety recommendations were issued by an investigator hired by the West Virginia Racing Commission, formally recommending stewards begin watching every race live out on the railing above the grandstand with binoculars, ensuring they have a wider view of what's happening on the track, rather than strictly watching on a TV monitor inside this booth.
Their employees were not doing what was in the initial recommendations. So to our knowledge right now, no, they are not.
In the 18 months since, the NEWS4 I-team visited Charlestown multiple times to see if those changes had been made.
I don't see any action far left.
And each and every time we checked, we found all of the stewards still watching from inside, none of them out on the rails. When we asked the State Racing Commission to sit down for an interview to explain why, they declined, instead issuing only a statement saying having constant communication with the other two stewards reduces reaction time in the event there's a problem on the track. This is delayed if a steward is outside on the rail viewing the race. But our investigation found this is just one of several disputes between the state racing officials and the people who run the tracks. They're also disagreeing over who's allowed to race here.
My horses, they come in for my family.
Including Scott Lane. In January 2014, in the 7th race,
And they're off-hand racing in the 7th.
his horse Diplomatic Gal bolted out of the gate,
Something's gone wrong there with Diplomatic Gal.
but never made it to the finish line. The horse broke down and had to be euthanized later. A state racing commission investigation into the incident said Lane had shown lack of candor and made false statements about what happened, including that his horse had finished a pre-race safety workout that day, a workout required to ensure a horse's health. And the state review found Lane's horses have a, quote, history of breaking down at Charlestown.
They say you have too many horses dying in too short a period of time. I mean, in all honesty, you know, the two horses that broke down one night and then the next night, one was a fluke, and the other one, you know, I still blame it on the bad track. I mean, it was frozen that night.
Lane told the I-team he didn't lie about skipping Diplomatic Gal's workout that day. He called it a miscommunication. The state did eject him from racing again in Charlestown for a while. In summer 2015, the West Virginia Racing Commission allowed Scott Lane to return.
We took the step as a track to eject him. We didn't think that this individual should be racing at our property.
Within 2 months, another of Lane's horses was pulled from a race and taken from the track in a van. Track managers told the I-team the horse has never returned to Charlestown.
Do you know how many horses you've had die, either during or after a race here? I think it was 4.
Our review of State Racing Commission records found 5 of his horses broke down in 1 year, 3 of them in a 1-month span in 2014. Records show he had a total of 13 horses in his operation at the time.
Due to actions not of our own, he's back racing again, and that's frustrating.
The West Virginia Racing Commission, in a statement to the I-team, said the Racing Commission's job is to oversee and regulate both thoroughbred and greyhound racing in West Virginia, and in that role will likely make some determinations that might not always please everyone. Scott McFarland, NEWS4 I-team.
New calls for change because of a NEWS4 I-team investigation which found more than 100 horses have died at a local racetrack since the beginning of 2014.
One member of Congress calls our I-team's findings unacceptable. As Scott McFarland found, animal welfare groups argue it's proof Washington needs to take tighter rein on horse racing.
And they're off.
Race 2, just before Christmas,
Mrs. Loudmouth showing speed from
ended as so many races do at the thoroughbred track in Charlestown, West Virginia, seemingly without incident. But in recent days, the I-team's ongoing review of local thoroughbred racing deaths found behind the scenes that night there was an incident. Mrs. Loudmouth, who finished second, failed a drug test after the race, according to records of a state investigation obtained by the I-team. The horse's blood sample showed 2 drugs above allowable levels, the record said. Racing officials suspended the trainer 15 days and issued a fine. The trainer waived his right to a hearing in the case, the records show, and our efforts to contact him by phone, email, and Facebook were unsuccessful. Months later, the same horse suffered an injury on the track and died, though West Virginia's Racing Commission records don't specify what contributed to the death. Mrs. Loudmouth is one of 160 horses that our investigation found have died at Charlestown since the start of 2014, and one of the 30 that we found failed a drug test there last year.
These magnificent animals are being harmed, killed, and a lot of jockeys maimed. It is not acceptable.
Pennsylvania Congressman Joe Pitt says the I-Team's reports show why Congress should pass sweeping new law to ban the use of drugs on horses on race day, which he says can mask a horse's injury.
That is the solution, with severe penalties for those who violate that standard.
The I-Team's investigation found the rate of deaths in Charlestown is about average. But we also found some of the industry's rules vary state by state. In West Virginia, the winning horse in a race and any selected by officials must be tested for drugs. In Maryland, the top 2 finishers must.
And that really is the essence of the problem. It's that the rules and regulations and protocols in West Virginia are different from Maryland, which in turn are different from Pennsylvania, which in turn are different from New Jersey.
A coalition of the Humane Society of the United States and some industry officials wants a different law passed, requiring the feds to order an anti-doping agency police thoroughbred racing.
Horses should be running on hay, oats, and water, and not on a pharmacopoeia of drugs that get horses that should be resting racing.
A National Horsemen's Association, in a statement to NEWS4, says the industry doesn't need an additional layer of bureaucracy or federal oversight used to force regulations, and that the industry is already working to bring uniformity to its rules. In 2013, the group's leadership told Congress doping is rare and that it's unwise to give authority to the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency,
which has neither the experience in horse racing nor the resources to regulate medication in the horse racing industry.
But there was another safety concern revealed by the I-Team that's gotten the attention of Congress and animal rights lobbyists here at the Capitol, and this one goes beyond just drugs.
Look out, loose horse on the track.
The December 2014 death of Frisky Dixie. When a horse broke free in the wrong direction at Charlestown that night, it then collided into thoroughbreds mid-race. One of them was euthanized. A state-ordered investigation into the tragedy recommended the West Virginia Racing Commission order at least one of its stewards to watch every race from a balcony outside the Racing Commission booth at Charlestown to get a better visual and help prevent wrong-way crashes in the future. Our investigation found 2 years later they're still not doing so. The agency told the I-Team they'd still prefer the steward remain indoors to ensure better communication. Both the track and the Humane Society now call it a mistake.
Clearly, in that incident, there were a number of failures that allowed that tragic situation to play out. They should have taken remedial action to address it, and it's disappointing that they haven't done so.
If Congress chooses to pass one of these proposed federal bills into law, including the one banning race day medications which some say could mask injuries, they have until the end of the year to do so. The I-Team has compiled an interactive feature showing how, when, and where the 160 horses that have died in Charlestown died since the start of 2014. Find it in the NBC Washington app under Investigations. Jim and Doreen.
So many. All right, great work. Scott, thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
For I-Team.